I'd like to spend the next few minutes and talk about effective virtual collaboration when you can't actually reach out and touch someone. The predicament that we typically face today is the situations that we have to figure out how to deal with are extremely complex and perceived as being complicated. And seldom does one person know enough to be able to address the situation that we have to deal with, which leads us to essentially realizing that collaboration is a necessary thing that we have to figure out how to do. Though typically we don't really know who the people are that it's appropriate to collaborate with. And once we do find them, we typically find out that they are geographically distributed in who knows how many time zones. And being that they are the right people, most likely they are already extremely busy. So the typical approach to holding meetings would be an unbelievable scheduling nightmare because of the time zones and the schedules that these people are already keeping. And the historical way of doing round robin or passing things from one person to another, this gerbil trail, simply won't work because of the time it takes to do it. And as a consequence, the typical approach to dealing with these situations is highly unlikely to produce anything of success, which leads us to the realization that being in this overly connected internet age, the virtual collaboration that we have to do, we have to figure out how to work with people that we can't essentially have meetings with on an ongoing basis. The old set of tools that we have used along the way and the old processes that we have employed are just simply not up to the task of what it is that we need to do today to figure out how to deal with situations in an effective manner. Now we've attempted, you might better say we've experimented for a number of years with different kinds of approaches to figuring out how to do this. And we've used discussion groups for a while. The difficulty with discussion groups is that the natural tendency for them is to be divergent, so that the discussion gets thinner and thinner. It's almost impossible to keep things on track. And when it finally gets thin enough, it puts people to sleep and they just go somewhere else. So that seldom, if ever, do discussions come to a consensus. And they're intertwined and linear, and what we are dealing with on an ongoing basis is definitely not linear. So we have tried to build microworlds, models for people to play with and learn from. But what we found out was that people tend to play the game and they want to figure out how to win interacting with the model, as opposed to really using that as an opportunity to investigate and understand the underlying structures, the patterns and structures and the mental models that are responsible for the relationships that are part of that microworld. What it comes down to is that people really learn best from building their own models, from understanding the set of relationships that are responsible for the way that things evolve, so that it provides them with a better sense of family, community, school, organization, and the world as a whole. So the realization being that the task at hand overwhelms the current methods that we understand. And in terms of trying to figure out how to do virtual collaboration, we need an integrated tool set along with an integrated mindset, a bunch of people who can very quickly come to the same aligned perspective on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So we looked at a number of tools currently available, and we determined that because we want to understand how to do virtual collaboration, we really want all of the tools to be web-based so that anybody can plug into them anywhere, that they can get to a terminal or a tablet or a phone or whatever. And you want the application to track changes so that you can keep track of how things evolved over time. And you want the applications to allow simultaneous multi-user interaction. And to a great extent, we have identified some things that allow us to do that. But the kinds of things that we want to do in this environment is discussions are still appropriate if you use them in the appropriate manner. We want to do mind mapping or relationship mapping. A wiki is probably useful for multiple people to enter content, the typical kinds of Office documents in terms of a word processing document, spreadsheets, drawings, those kinds of things, instant messaging, something to do rich pictures with, something to do causal loop diagrams, formal simulation models where appropriate, and at times actually doing charts. So we think that that's sort of the kinds of things that we need to be able to use, and we've identified a number of them that fulfill most of the requirements, and most of them are actually free to a certain extent, so that in terms of doing mind mapping, Debate Graph and Kumu are marvelous, Prezi for doing presentations, Insight Maker for rich pictures, LinkedIn for doing discussion groups, MediaWiki for developing one or more wikis, Skype, Gmail, instant messaging, those kinds of things. Insight Maker also allows us to do causal loop diagrams, as does Kumu, and Google Docs for the typical kinds of Office documents, Insight Maker for doing formal simulation models, and Lucidchart or Cuckoo for doing charts and graphs of that nature. Now, for this to all work, it needs to be integrated in a way that makes it easy for various people to plug in at different times, because you identify this set of people that need to collaborate, but it's not the same people that need to collaborate across the entire undertaking. Different skill sets need to plug in at different places, and you need a way for them to plug in quickly and figure out, to understand, here's the specific issue that we're trying to figure out how to deal with at the moment. And if you really want the background, here is all of the historical things that we have concluded to this point. If you want to go and research them or look at them, you can't expect that a person is going to come to a project that's been underway for 3 months and read 3 months worth of emails to figure out where things are at the moment. I mean, these people are busy, and you have to be respectful of their time constraints and be grateful for their willingness to contribute. So what we did was we started with a focus page in a wiki, which was a centralized point, and you could say all of the pieces that exist, who the participants are to this point, their contributions, everything about this project to this point is in this wiki. So it's a centralized point of departure for all of the rest of the pieces. And with that, we conduct multiple discussions about various aspects of things that we're trying to sort out. And as we sort things out, we synthesize the discussion back into consensus points on the focus page. And at the same time, where appropriate, we develop concept maps. The discussions continue to review and evolve the concept maps, and the concept maps are tied back into the focus page. And where appropriate, we also develop formal models, possibly simulation models, that then allow us to develop a deeper understanding of the set of relationships that are relevant. So this is sort of the bird's eye view of the set of interactions that we have employed. Though with the advent of Kumu, we've been able to simplify this, because we can use Kumu for the equivalent of the wiki, so that we can use the Kumu project as the point of focus, and also embed all of the discussions in the Kumu project, and also do the concept map in Kumu, and use Insight Maker for the formalized simulation models if we need to, and it integrates with Kumu in such a way that it appears that it's just part of the same application. So in this way, we can go ahead and create a Kumu project and allow people to come into it and participate. And when they come to the project, it says, here's where we are. Here are the things that we have done to this point. Here's what we're wrestling with. Here are the discussions. You know, we could use perspectives on this, this, and this. And it continues to move forward. Though what we also found, which I've sort of alluded to, is that to enable generative interactions, the intent of the project needs to be very well focused. And the worst thing that wastes people's time is a sort of nebulous project with an ill-defined intent that's sort of all over the place and almost anything fits. And as I said, these people are extremely busy, and the worst thing you can possibly do is waste their time, because they won't be around long if they begin to feel that that's what's happening. Though at the same time that you need a well-defined intent, you need the participants to be able to review and contribute to the evolution of that intent in an appropriate manner, so that I comment on an ongoing basis as to why people don't wash their rental cars, and it's because they don't own them. So that people will be much more likely to contribute to a project that they begin to sense an ownership of, and by contributing to the evolution of the intent, as well as evolving perspectives on aspects of it that need to evolve, is a necessary thing. And then somebody has to be absolutely fanatical about maintaining focus. The comment that I made about the tendency for things to diverge, one has to continue to synthesize that divergence back into a focus to say, here's where we are, here are the things that we're considering at this point, and moving forward, so that the project needs to be curated extremely well. Otherwise, it just goes off into Never Never Land. So there's my thoughts on effective virtual collaboration in just about 12 minutes. Take care. Bye.